Good morning, everyone. My name is Anne-Marie Van. Today's Friday, May the 3rd, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report for the Benzinga Pro platform. We're going to start with the ES right after the jobs report. Notice this. It went straight up to the call wall and rejected it by just a few pennies. Here's the thing. The number wasn't great, so bad news is good news for rate cuts, which is totally upside down, because if rate cuts come, it means that something's wrong with the underlying markets. But here's what we've got. We've got upside pressure today, breaking away from the formations. Let's take a big peek at what could be next. Let's go to the dailies and take a look at our, let me see about this one. I think that this might need to sit here, right on the break edges of yesterday for our channel event. That pushes us all the way up to 51.87 if we have forward progress. Now, please, I apologize about the background noise. We've got some cleaners here taking care of some stuff, and there's literally no place for me to sit right now without some kind of noise going on. All right, so that being said, we're sitting around in this little sideways patch, 51.10. The area that I went short a couple of days ago is now looking like old resistance that's turned to support. So that could potentially be the floor for the day. Ceiling, here's what we're going to see. This big motion could easily collapse because of the short squeeze that might have just occurred, right? People may be thinking, hey, price action is going to roll over. Market is a little bit weak. Indeed, that is not what we are seeing. We're seeing price break out, and that means everybody who's been short from about 51.15, they have to turn around and buy to cover. I still believe 51.51 to 51.54 is resistance. Here's the thing. That's a call wall. And so what it means is if the call wall gets broken and stays up above this level, price action stays up above this level any length of time, it is going to push the dealers into the market to bring their delta back to zero. At this juncture, I still think it's a shorting opportunity, but it's going to be a short into higher support, which could easily be 51.35, 51.22. When will I be wrong? Well, easily, that's the first thing you've got to think about when you're setting up a trade formation, and that is, am I going to break and hold up over these zones? I like using 15-minute candlesticks, but here we can clearly see the sellers are sitting around at this 51.51 area. If you close a 5-minute candlestick above this zone, probably going to start running to the upside. To me, I like the 15-minute breakout up above that zone. That's going to give us follow through with a new stop sitting at around 51.45. If it loses 51.44, 51.45, it has a leak back into the volatility bands that are being defined by the VWAP. All right, let's move this back. Oh, now the dogs are chiming in. That's fantastic. Okay, let's take a look at the SPY, right? SPY motion, it's not really showing that. SPY motion is really up here from Thinkorswim. And so let's go to the 4-hour. Well, let's go to the daily and see what we've got. Okay, here are our wedges, right? This is very likely that upside pressure event. It's holding pretty nicely as the 509 being that frontline support. So we want to watch for the pullbacks that give us buy zones. What are the levels to watch? And again, I don't know why it's not. Let's see. There we go. That's why it's not showing it. Here we are up at that 511. Let's go back to the daily. You can see how well these boxes are holding. I mean, it's just fantastic, folks. First pass, rejection, pulls back into a higher low. What's the slope of the moving average? Flat in a downward formation. So first group, unless it's just being run out of town, going to be sellers. And then the pullback will give the buyers strength. All right, so we want to watch those levels as we move up the chain, potentially 514 to 515, but I wouldn't be surprised if we came all the way back down to 507. I do not believe price action is going to be as definitively strong as so many others are thinking. There's too much of a headwind going on in general. All right, so let's go to the daily at the NQs. We can see, I mean, these are just doing absolutely fantastically. Here is the first resistance line, right here, 930 and some change. Probably going to break into that 18,050 area, maybe 18,012, and then we watch it jam up into this old edge at about 18,050. That's going to be what we'll be staring down in grand fashion. Okay, so that being said, let me remove this line. I think we can look very cleanly to see that pullbacks are buy zones today. The traders that have bought essentially to cover, I suspect many of them are looking at that, but the pullbacks are going to be into support zones, 17,826, all the way down to, wow, that line is really good. I'm not going to change it. All the way down to potentially 17,617, which I think is a nice, clean breakaway line in the NQ. All right, let's take a peek at the Qs. Right, moving. Let's take a look at the daily. All right, gonna bring this up a little bit. We've got our channels in play. This one is the middle. I don't know why this middle line is not. Oh, let me change all of these lines to this one so we can see what we're looking at. Still got good breakaway formations. I don't love that one as much as I did in times past, so I don't know, it's still pretty good. It might actually need to be a wee bit wider to pull the framework here to see what we're after. Above the midline into the resistance zone. Look at this, daily slope still down. Buyers making higher lows, momentum down to flat. Something's brewing. They're trying to hold the floors, right? But it is tough. And so my suspicion is that we're still largely range bound coming into this zone. This is yesterday's VWAP, 428.26. Let's look at the heavy congestion here into 433. We've got ourselves some motion to the upside. All right. I still believe that we've got ourselves some sideways motion. However, if we get up over this 428 and we start printing, look at this. We're now closing above, this is a 2-hour candlestick. We're closing above the moving average here. What we want to do is have one more candle close above the moving average, and then we'll know the pullbacks are Y zones into this area. Okay, and you can use a 30-minute chart or 15-minute chart. I like to use a 15-minute chart for intraday trading, and you'll see that buy zone occurred earlier in the space. I have no idea why it's doing this, but in any case, that's what we're staring down. The pullbacks off of this, oh, perfect, off of this 433, pullbacks are still buy zones, okay? It'll be down into first volatility band or the VWAP at 431. All right, that is what we are looking at right there. And let's go now to the YM. Oh, now come the vacuums. That's fantastic. All right, so for the YM, nice big break up through the level in the pre-market. This one is holding as fair recovery. Listen, there's nowhere else on earth that's performing as well as our markets are performing. And so there's sort of like, if I want to get yield past 5%, this is the only game in town going on, and whoopsie. And so that is really, I believe, what's going on with the YM in general here. So let's make this the box. Let's move it up here. That's the real resistance zone. We'll make the box here. And then we can see if we duplicate it. Let's clone this and move it up. It's going to give us this resistance zone very nicely on the break. And then that area of congestion on the rise. It looks pretty good to me. It looks actually really good to me. So if I duplicate this to the downside, let's clone it one more time. Absolutely. Taking the halfway prices. This looks fantastic in terms of range formation, pullbacks or buy zones. How deep could the pullback be? You know, we could get a pullback here into the opening range. We could also get a much more shallow pullback since Fridays tend to trend a fair bit more, and that would be 38,761. Okay? Lastly, we're just going to take a peek at oil. You know, my thought is that oil would come into 79, spot on. It's been dancing around there. It lost 78.50, and so that is going to be something that we watch as the next floor. Measured moves from John Hoagland at Top Step TV take us down into 73. Now, wouldn't that be something? But let's just take a peek at the daily markers and see where price action is. Yes, look at this, 78.50. Let's move it down to the base of congestion, and let me clone this one and have a peek at moving it here, where we have our breakaways, nice and clean, all the way down to that zone. And here's what we can see. Look at that. Right? Just into the noise. It's going to be very interesting. I think this one gets super messy in the short run. Very bearish at this juncture. All right, so bounces are still going to be sell zones, price action. Just look for those highs, right? The prior areas. Okay, that's it for me, folks. Have a good trading day. For those of you that are in the Benzinga Pro platform, you know that we've got our study session today at 11:45, and we do have the Benzinga Options Show at 11 a.m. And if you want to see me on Strategy Lab, that'll be 2 p.m. all times Eastern on Top Step TV. Take care, everyone.